The Mongol conquests of the 13th century are often reduced in popular memory to images of steppe horsemen and mass slaughter. But their success rested on a sophisticated, multi-layered system that combined military innovation, organizational discipline, intelligence, logistics, legal administrative frameworks, and deliberate economic and psychological policies. At the heart of Mongol power lay an integrated approach, exceptional tactical mobility and firepower on the battlefield, a rigorous meritocratic command and social structure that ensured cohesion, a fast and resilient communications and supply network, deliberate incorporation of foreign technical expertise, and a consistent use of psychological warfare and information control to induce surrender without costly sieges. Together, these elements created not a single trick, but a durable and flexible war machine capable of both lightning strikes and long campaigns of consolidation. First, mobility and mounted archery were the foundational military advantages. Mongol society produced expert horsemen from childhood. A mounted warrior habitually kept multiple remounts, permitting sustained rapid marches and extreme endurance. This operational mobility allowed Mongol commanders to concentrate force at will, execute deep raids into enemy rear areas, encircle scattered forces, or simply appear where an opponent least expected. The composite bow, compact, powerful, and effective from horseback, gave Mongol units lethal standoff capability. The combination of speed and accurate long-range missile fire meant Mongol tactics emphasized maneuver and envelopment rather than static frontal assaults. They could fragment enemy formations from a distance, then close and exploit gaps. In battle, this translated into typical Mongol patterns: probe with light detachments, harass with mounted archers to create disorder, feign retreats to draw enemies into pursuit, and then counterattack with well-timed reserves. The feigned retreat, deliberately breaking contact and simulating rout, remains one of their most famous devices because it exploited the psychological and command weaknesses of opponents who lacked the discipline to hold formation under apparent advantage.
Second, the Mongol military and administrative organization magnify the combat value of individual soldiers. The decimal military structure, units of 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, produced a nested and repeatable command and control architecture. This system made orders easy to pass, accountability straightforward, and unit recomposition flexible. Discipline was enforced uniformly. The threat of harsh but predictable punishment for desertion, theft, or dereliction sustained cohesion even under arduous conditions. Leadership promotion was largely merit-based. Ability and proven performance could override lineage or tribal status. That meritocratic streak allowed talented foreign officers and specialists to rise within Mongol service, creating a professionalized corps of commanders and technicians. Third, the Mongols invested heavily in communications, logistics, and intelligence, areas often overlooked in discussions that focus solely on battlefield tactics. The Yam relay system of mounted stations with fresh horses and supplies permitted couriers and commanders to transmit messages and dispatches at unprecedented speed across vast distances. Alongside this, the Mongols employed extensive scouting and espionage networks to gather information about terrain, seasonal conditions, enemy dispositions, and political cleavages within target states. Good intelligence enabled them to select the timing and direction of campaigns with purpose, attacking when rivers froze to enable cavalry movement, choosing routes that avoided difficult terrain, or striking during political disunity. Logistically, while Mongol armies were not heavily dependent on wagon trains, they were expert at living off the land, requisitioning local supplies when necessary, and using local specialists to supplement their capabilities. Their ability to operate in harsh environments and for long stretches without rigid supply lines multiplied their strategic options.
Fourth, the Mongols were deliberate adopters and integrators of foreign technologies and personnel. When confronted with sieges or complex administrative tasks, the Mongols did not rely on improvisation alone. They actively recruited engineers, siege experts, craftsmen, administrators, translators, and physicians from conquered regions. Chinese and Persian engineers, for example, supplied expertise in siegecraft and manufacturing of siege engines. Persian and Chinese scribes and administrators helped create tax registers and govern urban populations. The Mongols' pragmatic openness to technical knowledge and bureaucratic skills effectively combined nomadic military prowess with settled world technology and administrative know-how. This fusion allowed them not only to take walled cities that steppe armies otherwise struggled with, but also to govern and extract resources from those cities efficiently after conquest. Fifth, psychological warfare and information strategy were central. Mongol commanders cultivated an image, sometimes by deliberate atrocity, sometimes by rumor management, of ruthlessness toward resistors and clemency toward those who surrendered. News of harsh reprisals spread quickly in pre-modern Eurasia. Many cities chose submission rather than risk devastation. This was not pure terror for terror's sake. It was a cost-saving instrument of policy. Selective massacres could coerce compliance, while displays of mercy and the protection of merchants and artisans could secure stability and revenues. This led to a paradoxical but effective policy mix: terrorized resistance in some places, pragmatic incorporation and promotion of trade and administration in others. Where rulers were useful or communities surrendered, the Mongols often preserved local elites, co-opted administrators, and protected trade routes, policies that stabilized their rule and generated long-term economic benefits. Sixth, institutional frameworks, legal codes, credentialing, and diplomatic infrastructure helped tie the empire together. The Mongol legal code, commonly referred to in sources as the Yasa, enforced centralized norms on the conduct of warfare, taxation, commerce, and mobility. The issuance of paises, metal or wooden tablets, empowered authorized envoys, merchants, and officials to requisition horses, lodging, and supplies along imperial routes. This both facilitated movement and created a regulated corridor for trade and official communication. The Mongols also practiced pragmatic diplomacy, using envoys, offering tributary arrangements, and playing rival local elites against one another to reduce the need for direct, costly occupation in every territory. Seventh, the Mongol approach generated an economic and security environment that encouraged exchange, the so-called Pax Mongolica. By securing long stretches of the Silk Road and protecting merchants when state interests favored it, Mongol rule temporarily lowered the transaction costs of long-distance trade, enabling flows of goods, people, ideas, and technologies across Eurasia. That economic integration made their conquests more sustainable by generating wealth that funded governance and military operations, and by spreading useful technical knowledge across regions. To illustrate how these elements combined in practice, consider several historical episodes. In the Battle of the Khalkha River, 1223, and the campaigns against the Khwarezmian Empire, 1219 to 1221, Mongol use of mobility, deception, and intelligence shattered larger but less flexible armies. In sieges like the capture of Zhongdu and later Baghdad, 1258, the Mongols incorporated siege engineers and heavy arms to overcome pagan steppe tactics weaknesses in urban warfare. In Europe's 1241 campaigns, for example, the Battle of Mohi in Hungary, Mongol operational mobility and coordinated use of feigned retreats, combined arms, and rapid concentration of forces routed established feudal armies. Each success fed a reputation that often provoked surrender before fighting began. Nevertheless, Mongol dominance had structural limits and counterforces. Administrative control over distant, densely populated sedentary societies required sustained bureaucratic capacity and local collaboration. The Mongols often relied on co-opted local elites and foreign administrators, but long-term rule required adaptation that gradually eroded purely military advantages. In some theaters, maritime East Asia or parts of Southeast Asia, the Mongols faced environmental and logistical constraints their cavalry-centric model could not easily overcome. Naval campaigns, for example under Kublai Khan, revealed limitations in Mongol seafaring experience and the difficulties of transferring steppe tactics to the sea. The death of charismatic central figures, e.g. Genghis Khan or Ogedei, and succession disputes periodically interrupted campaigns and fragmented command cohesion. Cultural assimilation and the practicalities of ruling a multi-ethnic empire also produced divergent priorities among Mongol elites, reducing the drive for continuous expansion. Epidemics and climatic shifts likewise shaped outcomes in ways that no single military system could control. Finally, the Mongol story is instructive because it shows how military success is rarely reducible to a single advantage. Rather, it emerges from the interaction of many elements: tactical prowess, organizational design, logistical networks, intelligence, technology adoption, legal and administrative instruments, and economic policy, deployed with discipline and political will. Their ability to integrate nomadic mobility with sedentary technology and bureaucratic methods, combined with a ruthless yet pragmatic application of psychological pressure, made the Mongols uniquely effective in the 13th century. At the same time, those same processes, administrative complexity, cultural syncretism, and the limits of cavalry-based warfare ultimately contained the empire's capacity to remain a single, centrally driven political unit indefinitely. In short, the Mongols conquered large parts of the world not by a single tactic, but by an ecosystem of practices: decisive operational mobility and mounted missile fire, strict merit-based organization, rapid communications and logistics, systematic intelligence and reconnaissance, strategic incorporation of foreign expertise, legal and administrative tools for governance, and calibrated psychological warfare. Each element reinforced the others, producing campaigns that were faster, cheaper, and more effective than most of their contemporaries could imagine, letting a relatively small, disciplined force reach and control swaths of Eurasia in a remarkably short span of time.